Yeah, I would see how people would think it would be the case, but history would suggest it's not the case.
Election outcomes don't have much of an impact on our financial investments. That's according to one GTA financial manager as Canada's federal election rounds its final corner. Peter Watson says it's a common belief that one party being elected over another could affect how well our investments perform. But he says that's more of a myth.
And we looked into the United States. They have a nice two-party model. Democrats are more socially leaning, Republicans more business-oriented. And if you look at the last 90 plus years, there's really been no correlation between market returns and who's in power.
We do still have little market reactions, though, don't we? Right after there's an election result, we'll see little ups or we'll see little downs. We do get the little ones right off the top, don't we?
We get little reactions on a daily basis, monthly basis, and sometimes within the trading day.
Peter, you talked a little bit about how, when we look at the data from the U.S., we see that, the long term, the trend doesn't really seem to be impacted by the politics. Does that translate to the Canadian, scene as well?
I would have to assume so. The advantage of looking at the United States is it's such a clear model with the two-party system.
We have a very small impact on the world financial communities.
Peter Dungan is an economist with the Rotman School of Management at U of T. He says he very much agrees with Watson's assessment of how much our elections impact our investments, especially above the border.
The impact of an election in Canada is likely to do very little to a people's portfolio.
He does say we can see some ups and downs for domestic companies, depending if, say, an elected government implements or revokes a carbon tax. But as governments change back and forth, he agrees those impacts tend to average out in the long run.
In terms of your overall portfolio, if it's well balanced and has good international shares, almost nothing from that.
Is there maybe even like a little bit of a social phenomenon too, where for those of us who are liberal, when liberals in power, we want to be like, look how great the stock market is doing. And for those of us who are conservative, when the conservatives are in power, we like to go, oh, look how great the stock market is doing. Do we see it through the lens of our personal value systems?
Perhaps that's true. Yes. I mean, most people, in a sense, we're learning more and more through these last couple of years that people interpret events and form their ideas based on things that will reinforce what they already think.
We're always sort of having our perception of things and our preference on things, and that's how we view the world. But don't get it muddled up with investments, because if you start trying to reflect your personal hopes and wishes and thoughts, if you try to reflect that in your investment thinking, that can be expensive.
For City News, I'm David Zura.